mentioned to me that he had a meeting with someone on Zoom, and the guy's dressed all proper, and then this kid makes a noise at the next room, so he gets up, and he goes to the door, and he notices that the fellow isn't wearing any trousers. So the question is, can you have a Zoom meeting and not wear trousers? Just wear proper clothes on the top. No one sees what's underneath anyway. Well, maybe we can get an insight from the perspective of what we read about in this week's Torah portion, which is 43 verses talking about the Kohen's garments. Think about it. The whole creation of the world has 30 some odd verses. The Ten Commandments have 14 verses. And here there are 43 verses just about the garments of the priest. And to the extent that we're told that the priest, the high priest, and the regular priest, they each had their garments, and without it, they weren't allowed to do the service. There was something lacking in their kingdom. So it behoves us to take a look and see what's the value of these garments, or garments in general, and these garments in particular. What's the idea behind them? What's the value of them, and so on. So, Medrash says something fascinating. Who was the first one to create the fashion industry, if you'd like? Adam, before the eating of the tree of knowledge, of course, was undressed, just like all the animals were walking around undressed. After he had the tree of knowledge, he had a fig leaf over his private parts. It was still not clothing. It was only later that God made him garments. The Torah says he made him garments. So there is a perspective that the garments that God made to Adam were the garments of the high priest. And then that Adam gave this to his son Shais, who then gave it to his grandson Sheshelach, who gave it to his grandson Noach, who gave it to his son Shem, who gave it to Abraham, who gave it to Isaac. Isaac gave it to Esau. And that's why Jacob bought the rights of the firstborn from Esau, and then got these garments of these special garments of the high priest. Well, what's the significance? Why would they need it? Especially, why would Adam need it? There was no one around this time. There was no need for fashion. There was no one to be a fashion critic, if you'd like. Now, with regards to the high priest's garments, some of the commentaries say that there are 4 garments of white linen and 4 garments that have gold in it, and the 4 garments of linen represent the 4 letters of the name of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, that represent Chesed, kindness. And the 4 garments of the gold represent Gvura, and the 4 letters of Hashem's name, Adonai. And the regular priest is not able to transform the Gvura, severity, or strictness, so therefore he only wears the 4 garments of Chesed. The high priest is able to transform it, and therefore he has both. When he goes into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur, however, there's no room for judgment there. There's only kindness. To take it a step further, the Talmud tells us in Tractate Megillah that Achashverosh, when he made the party, it was a party celebrating in his mind the end of the vision of the Jewish people to go back to Israel. You see, he calculated, there's a prophecy that the Jewish people would come back after 70 years. He calculated the 70 years to when the Jews were exiled to Babylonia. But in truth, the right calculation would be from when the temple was destroyed. That was 11 years later. So Achashverosh at that time thought, hey, this is 70 years, the prophecy has not been completed, Jews are not going back to Israel, the temple's not going to be rebuilt. He took out all the vessels of the holy temple and presented it in front of everyone who came to the party, and he himself dressed in the garments of the high priest, which is, by the way, one of the reasons that we're so distasteful for the Jewish people to participate in this party. But why would Achashverosh want to wear these garments of the high priest? What's the idea behind it? So, simply put, on one hand, the garments we wear are how people see us. We're judged by the way we look. So if we want to come across with a certain level of authority or a certain level of honor, it makes a difference what garments we wear. So that's one dimension. But then there's something even deeper. It's not only how other people see us, it's how we see ourselves. When we wear special clothes, we feel better about ourselves. The clothes make the man. So, therefore, these special garments that the Kohen had to wear was in order to reveal and express and bring out something unique and special within them that was only able to be actualized or come to the fore because of these garments. The Rebbe says in the opposite direction. You know, there's other areas in Judaism about garments, such as when we daven. The Shulchan Aruch says you should put on nice clothing when you daven. You're talking to God. Imagine you're talking to your bank manager. So you dress appropriately. On Shabbat, we have to have special Shabbat clothes. It's a special day. It's meant to take you into another state. You put on clothing that is specially set aside for Shabbos. On the other hand, it's important, even when we're alone, to be modest, to dress modestly. Because, as the Rebbe puts it, when we dress immodestly, we are actually expressing from within ourselves a negativity that could be very deep and concealed within us. And when we dress in a non-modest way, that comes to the fore. And it affects our consciousness of who we are. So as the Sefer HaChinuch generally says, that a person is moved by externalities. In other words, our actions could affect our emotions and our feelings. Our garments, therefore, do affect how we view ourselves, how we see ourselves. And so, therefore, we have to dress appropriately, Shabbat, for davening, and so on. And I'll take one more point in this, and that is that garments of the soul, the Alter Rebbe speaks of garments of the soul as a thought, speech, and action. That's our garments of the soul. And the soul itself is more the intellect and emotion. And the garments of the soul, the thought, speech, and action, have an influence and an impact on the inner dimension of the soul. So we have to make sure that our garments are good, because that affects who we are. I told once a story of a bride and a groom who came to the Rebbe for a private audience before their wedding. And she says, I'd like to speak to the Rebbe alone. Asks him to go out. And after they finished the private audience, somehow or another he wasn't able to talk to her before the wedding. And then right a week later was the wedding, so he didn't have a chance to ask her what was that all about. The night of the chuppah, the night of the wedding, afterwards, the first time they're able to talk to each other, he asked, what was that about? She says, I wanted to break off the engagement because I have a tendency of irritation, and I get easily annoyed and upset and angry, and I didn't want to put you through having my anger. So I asked the Rebbe what I should do. Well, the Rebbe says I shouldn't break it off. It's a very important thing, a shidduch. And I should volunteer my time to work with special needs children in preschool, because that will train me to have to be more patient and to speak patiently and with kindness and with a low tone. And as you train yourself that way, it has an effect, and that will help you in your marriage as well. So what the Rebbe was saying here is that if you train your responses, in other words, you're putting on different garments of pleasantness, garments of calm, then that will have a greater influence on the person himself. And so you could answer the question yourself: what kind of do we need to wear trousers when we have our Zoom meetings? But Shulchan Aruch says that you need to be even in private, you need to be modest. Shabbos.